Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Mile High Game Guys board gaming podcast. I'm your host, Adrian.
And I'm Zach.
And Jeff is still recuperating from grievous injuries, filling in for him on this week's review episode. The hater himself, Andrew.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing good. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. None of you guys are grievously bodily harmed, are you?
No, not physically.
Not
Just
physically.
emotionally.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Okay.
And psychologically. But
And psychologically, yes.
the
Deeply,
norm,
deeply.
I guess. So,
Yeah, nothing that's not usual. That hasn't been present for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so let's dive right into this. We're still rotating through some guests here on the show while we wait for Jeff to recover enough that he can hobble his broken-legged self
down
into the
half a flight
studio.
of stairs. Yeah.
But so we're gonna try and keep these episodes a little bit more contained and not go so far afield.
Yes.
We'll see how that all goes.
Because really it was Jeff that was pushing you so
Correct.
far.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, we're super straight laced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know you so well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be refreshing not having Jeff's willy-nilly, tangents and things.
Right.
So, but yeah, this week we're doing another review, and we are going to be reviewing Pandemic: Fall of Rome. This is the latest in the Pandemic Survivor series. It is designed by Matt Leacock and Paulo Mori. Artist is Atha Kanai, Ollie Lawson, and Antonio Mayanes. Published by Asmodee. It plays 1 to 5 players, takes 45 to 60 minutes. Zach, do you have a rules rundown for us?
Yes, I do. In Pandemic: Fall of Rome, you're trying to protect Rome from 5 different barbarian tribes. On your turn, you can take 4 actions, including moving, trading cards, recruiting legions, and fighting. When fighting barbarians, you will roll dice equal to your assisting legions and remove cubes according to the die faces. After your turn, you will draw cards and then invade cities. Invading barbarians will follow various routes, with most ending at Rome. Adding more than 3 cubes to a city causes it to be sacked, spreading to connected cities and causing decline. If your deck ever runs out, if you hit full decline, or you're unable to add a cube onto the board, you lose. But if you exterminate and or ally with all the barbarians, you win.
Yeah, that's it. Nice and simple, as all of Zach's overviews are. Whether the game is or not, yet to be seen. But
I'm sure you wouldn't want me to be here like a 10-minute rundown of just every little fucking thing.
Correct.
Not to say that this game would need that, but still.
And this character does this special ability.
Yeah. That's how we draw in people.
Yes, the over-detailed conversations on audio, where they can really visualize what.
But that's not a
doing.
conversation. That's just me talking at them.
It's a monologue.
Yes, sure.
So much for staying on topic and keeping things succinct. Let's get over to some initial thoughts here. Let's start with you, Andrew, since you're your guest. You're filling in here. We're going to throw you to the wolves, which, is what we do. So what were your initial thoughts going into Pandemic: Fall of Rome?
Throwing me to the wolves is actually maybe a little bit appropriate for the Roman holiday of Lupercalia, the raised by wolves as the Romulus and Remus were.
Yeah.
So as you may have guessed from that little tangent right there, I know a hell of a lot about classical history. It was my major in college, so there's a little bit to which I was trepidatious about that. Like, are they going to screw this up? But there was also like, let's see what they can do with that. And also, I have enjoyed every version of Pandemic that does not involve Cthulhu.
As most people, I believe.
Yeah. But no, I really liked, the base game, Legacies, the Iberia, the Rising Tide. So I think I was on your review game.
For both of those.
Both of those, Iberia and Rising Tide too. So
that's why we brought you on, not because of the Rome stuff. That just happenstance.
Yeah. So yeah, it should be right up my alley. I really like Rome, and I really like Pandemic, and so it was mostly excited with a little bit of like, boy, I hope they don't screw it up.
Okay.
So.
I was in a similar boat, mostly because I heard that this was going to be the first Pandemic to incorporate dice. I was like, oh, great. Like, Pandemic, you can get bad deck draws that already screw you enough in Pandemic. If you start throwing in some dicey random bullshit, that could really cause some issues. But I was in a similar boat where, except for the Cthulhu one, I thought they'd done a good job with all of them. I like what they've been doing with the Survivor series of bringing in like a designer local to a region and doing something kind of in their that background that fits that country. And so I was at least interested to see what they did with it thematically, how they actually incorporated Rome into a pandemic game. I knew that they were going to have the barbarian invasions, the foreign invasion kind of things. I was curious what mechanic they'd use to do that and how that would relate to the previous mechanics they've used, like Infection or in Rising Tide, the water flowing. And so yeah, I was interested to see what they did, but I was a little bit hesitant and a little bit nervous about what the dice would do to the game. So Zach, what about you?
I was looking forward to it. I enjoyed all the previous Survivor Series, like you guys too. And I liked the idea of, like, I've been fine with it not being, like, disease related.
Right.
Like some people. But I like the idea of invading barbarians and you're having to stop it. And because you're actually fighting, there's dice now. And so I was very, I was looking forward to this one when it came out.
Right on. Well, let's go ahead and talk about some components then. As is the case with pretty much all of the Survivor Series, the components are really good.
Yes.
They've got kind of a unique little art style. I really like the art style of the board.
Mm-hmm.
The colors and everything they used for it, I really like.
Yeah.
They did a little bit different with the graphical design of this one. One, because it's like Southern Europe, centered around Italy because it's the Roman Empire.
Like, I mean, like all the previous ones have had their own unique themes on them that's relative to the actual location, which
water droplets on the Netherlands and things like that.
The in the 1800s Spanish like art that looks like I think they've all looked good and unique and distinct, and they are continuing the trend on this one.
They also this one does have a little bit of like a reimagining for the way the towns and things are connected, because now they draw paths that the different tribes of invaders will follow. Which kind of branch around and do different things.
And there are paths that they can't follow, but you can.
Yes.
So, that's a little bit confusing. It took me some getting used to, but it was fine.
Cards, as always in these games, good card quality.
The events, like, they look like events. They have their own themed names on them, and I like that they have not Italian, but Latin on it. So those little things were always like those little touches are always good.
Absolutely.
And I like how on the in the invasion cards too, it actually shows you, because everything's path related. They did a good job of showing you the path of everything has to go.
Yes.
And I don't think there were any times that we were confused by it.
I think it took me a little getting used to again, but I can't just look at what the city name is. I have to look at the path on the card.
Yes.
I
think that's
No, that was like, once you get that figured out, and that's pretty simple. It's really well laid out.
No, I think that's pretty much anything that hasn't been worldwide. When it's focusing on a city, on a country or a region where I don't know a lot of the names, or especially if the names of things 2 centuries, not a millennia ago.
Right.
Or I guess it was 1500 years.
1700.
14 is
16.
4th century.
1600, 1700 years ago.
That you're going to have to rely on those cards a lot, and I think they did a good job with it. Especially because cities can have multiple colors to them now.
Yes.
I think they did a good job of showing that on the board, that it's all, different sections of a circle. So
the trickiest one is probably Rome, just because it's every color. So there's it's a lot of information on Rome, but most of the other ones are only 2 or I think maybe one time there's a 3 color.
There's a couple 3s.
But they're really well indicated, like you were saying there. They still use cubes, like they've done for everything, whether it's water or disease or ravaging armies. Cubes. They did do unique little like Praetorian wooden things for your legions that you move around with you. It looks like a little legionnaire. The dice are custom dice with their own custom facings.
That are, I think they're engraved.
They're engraved down in there.
Those are super easy to understand.
They look nice.
Yeah,
not a whole lot of components. I mean, there never really are for pandemic games.
They're
pretty simple. They still use the same like plastic pawns that all the other pandemics did for player pawns.
Right.
One nice thing I thought they did too was the cards for each of the city cards, because there's different amount of like enemy cubes and then how many cards you need to do certain things, they actually include how many cards there are in total on there.
Yeah, so you can see when you have a red card, how many red cards are in the game.
Yes.
Or how many black cards or white cards or whatever.
Yeah. On that note, though, the one problem with the cards is, this is going to sound weird, but the white color and the black color are actually really kind of interchangeable. Like it can sometimes I have 3 white and you have a white. Oh wait, no, it's a black that you have. Yeah.
No, you wouldn't think that was, but because both of them are like majority gray with like white accents and black accents,
right?
It is, like you said, it's a lot easier to confuse them than any of the other colors.
Right. And if you have them like right next to each other, it's you can tell. But if one guy or one person only has one color, then like, wait, which one is that again?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much everything for components. I'm clicking through some pictures here, and I think we've touched on everything.
No, yeah, it's pretty much.
Asmodee makes pretty good games.
Z-Man, well, I guess, but yeah.
But all right, well, we can move on over into some rules and rules explanations then. Zach, you taught me this game.
I've taught everybody this game in the entire world. No,
you guys played together. The very first game of this was a game you guys were both in that same game,
and it was just the two of us, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, what did you think of the rules when you were learning to play?
Well, to be fair, that first game we got wrong.
Yeah, we got it wrong, as per all the games that we played.
Correct. Yeah.
And
we should really do something about that.
I would say ignore it. That's what I've been doing so far.
Good answer.
But for the most part, it's like a lot of these, it's like 80% pandemic, and it's just, which we know very well, and it's just little changes here and there. Like this one, it has pathing in it versus just random place, or not random placement, but card placement. Previously, how you interact with the cubes is different, just because instead of just curing them, you actually have to fight them.
And you can't fight them yourself.
You can't fight them yourself.
Legions to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can only recruit them from certain places. And then obviously learning each of the roles of this version, they're all unique. It's all unique to this one, but they're reminiscent of previous things.
Yes, absolutely.
But the hardest thing for us was, and the thing that we got wrong, was every other time in pandemic, it's always how the infection works and how the outbreak works is the same, as that when you draw a card, you just place it wherever the card says.
Right.
Whereas in this invasion, you actually have to track it. And
how far are they along the way?
Obviously, if they're already there, it just adds more to it. But if they aren't that far, you have to trace it back until you find a spot that they can then move from. But if it's a revolt, I mean, it makes sense that they're revolting and they're now with that tribe, so they automatically show up. And so we were treating it like it was the invasion, and so it was super easy that first time because we were treating it like that, and so nothing ever got behind us because we were always able to build a big wall basically of legions and forts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But this every time we've played after that, it's been fine.
Yeah.
And once we got that down, it's been super easy to teach people too. And I would say it might be confusing for the invasions if like it was a whole bunch of new people, but once I know how to do it, it's just like when we start doing it, I'm just the one moving the stuff here, and I'm showing them how it happens. But because I know how it happens, it's easy to know. To be like, see, it's going here because it can only move from here. Yeah. And then a couple turns in, everyone's like, okay, I get it now. And then it's like, hey, can you place it here? And then they'll actually do it correctly.
Yeah, I know. The first time I played, I don't remember what was going on or where we were playing, but there were distractions. It was probably game night, and there were distractions. And that's one thing that I know I wasn't 100% sure on. But then, like you said, you just sat at that corner of the table, and you were like, all right, I'm just flipping these, and they're happening. And then it was easy enough to see as they were. If there was a little curiosity, like, wait, why did it go all the way over there? Isn't that card over here? And you're like, because the path, Adrian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
One other thing, too, that this does differently, in particular, is the initial infection or the initial placement. In previous ones, it's random which 9 come out. This one, because it's path based, they all have to start in the same 9 cards or the 9 cities. Obviously, the amount that they get placed on there is random because you shuffle the 9 cards up, but they actually have gold border around them to signify these are the starter cities that are already out,
Right.
which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
That obviously you don't have as much variability in that
Right.
sense.
It's the most on rails pandemic game, except maybe if you count all of Legacy as
Yeah.
one game.
Yeah,
That's
right.
pretty on rails. But aside from that, this is
And I mean the one from that beginning, it then changes like Pandemic, but it's from the start. It's always going to be roughly the same.
right.
So yeah, I mean, besides the bad luck of like you get 3 orange cards and they are all the 3s or something like that.
That would be awful.
Now, with that initial setup thing, because both times we've played with, I know, a variant.
Yes,
It's like the Rome variant.
Which it's very simple. It's just that Rome can't have any legions in it, and you always start with 2 legions wherever you are. So if you start in Rome, then you don't start with any legions, and then if you ever try and go into Rome, you can't take legions with you.
Yeah.
Because that was more accurate. They say is more like that's their reasoning before.
There were rules
Yes.
saying that you couldn't bring legions into Rome. That doesn't mean that
It didn't
people
happen.
didn't.
Right.
You know, the Julius Caesar's famous quote, "Alla jacta est," the die is cast, is because he was crossing the Rubicon. You've heard that. That's the river that you cannot cross with a legion on your way into Rome, and he did it. And it like, all right, I'm starting a civil war here. We'll see what happens. The die is cast.
Okay.
So
I thought you were telling how he liked to play board games.
just throws dice across the room. He was very unpleasant to play board games with.
Now, with that variant, do you always pull the Rome cards out as well, or is that part of that variant?
No, it's because there are because you want to make sure that all 5 are available whenever you do a revolt, so they actually get shoveled into the game. You just immediately put them into the discard pile. So that's another difference too, is that there are 14 cards in the discard pile when you start instead of the normal 9.
Okay, and that is a part of that variant.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Just
normally
to
in
be
the normal game, those are all shuffled in.
No. That's in general. That always happens.
Oh, so that's just a new part of.
Yes, because they're always trying to go to Rome. They wanted to make sure that they always want to go to Rome, so they included all the Rome cards, and because there's 5, 1 for each color.
Yep.
So
that was what I was going to.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. See, I'd misunderstood even during the couple times the plays that I had, that I thought that was just part of that. No legions in Rome variant.
The other part of the Rome variant, though, is that in the standard game, Rome, you only get a decline if it outbreaks in Rome.
No,
right?
So in the standard game, if Rome ever gets sacked, because that's what happens when there's an outbreak, is instead the city gets sacked. If Rome ever gets sacked, you lose. This one now, if barbarians ever reach Rome, you get a decline. So
they don't even stay in Rome.
No.
Like as soon as they hit Rome, they disappear.
Yeah.
But you get a decline, which is the same as the outbreak tracker in this game.
Yes.
Okay. Which can be real brutal.
Yeah.
Yes, it can.
Some other things, speaking of the decline track, there are event cards like in all Pandemic games. And
This is my favorite new mechanic in the game.
Is that they have a normal power, but then they also have a super power that, it's like, instead of for the invading cities, you draw 2 less, or you can choose to just skip it altogether, but you have to take a decline. So then you have a choice, which we have definitely used in games where we weren't going to lose because of decline.
Right.
Where you can choose to take a decline to be like, we really need to have this thing happen. Rome be damned.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of those get real powerful for the added bonuses.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks when you're like, when you actually are having a fair amount of decline, you're like, man, is it worth it to basically...
We've got 3 decline left. Can I spend one of them on
exactly.
this?
Yeah. And I feel like that's part of it now, is that it makes those things super important not to happen, because before they were all... That and other game enders were all roughly the same.
Right.
And now losing via decline makes it to where you can't do the super things you need to, the clutch moves when you need to.
Yeah.
So
other rules, things there are some different player roles that do different things that more fit the theme. Some of them are still, you can clearly see like, oh, this guy's essentially the scientist from original Pandemic.
Yeah.
Right.
But then some of them are like completely new, like letting you move barbarians around or like turn barbarians into soldiers easy, things like that. They
That's
all do
kind of medic-y.
Yeah, kind of.
I would say the super soldier guy is the more medic based one, just because he's a lot better at taking out cubes.
Right.
And I'd say the most unique one we've seen is the Oracle person. I forgot
Vestalis.
Vestalis.
Yeah.
You actually get to use the event cards that you don't. Normally you deal like 8 or 6 or however many,
right?
And then you put the rest in the box. This one lets you use it as a draw pile for that character.
The rest of the event cards, yeah.
All the ones that aren't in the deck, they keep,
right.
And they can just not even as an action, just on their on their turn, can discard a card from their hand and draw an event card from the deck, which is really nice. If like in our last game that we played, we thought we were going to lose, like to the point where we were about ready to call it, and Mander was like, "No, let's play this out. Let's play this out. I have this ability," and he's like, I can go here and draw 2 cards, and I can go here and draw 2 cards. And so like he had all these cards. He's like, oh, well, I have like this kills all of these, and this does this, and this does this.
It's very situational, but that they also don't want to fight because they're the only ones that can. It actually it has a better chance of hurting them to fight versus.
Right. We should explain that in a moment, but I did want to say just to link this to what you guys and our audience presumably have at least heard of. Vestalis is the name on the card. You probably know the name Vestal Virgin. That's who this is. The priestesses of the Temple of Vesta.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've heard the name. I didn't know they were.
That's who the Vestal Virgins are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They kept the fire that at the heart of Rome and never let the eternal flame go out.
Okay.
So. Gotcha.
Lost train of thought. So the other thing that they did change with this player rolls is they do all now, because you do roll dice for combat. One of the symbols on the die is like the Roman eagle. Is there a term for that, Kaiser?
There probably is, but I don't know that one.
Okay. There's like the eagle, and when you roll that, everybody's player character has a specific effect that is resolved that's different for each player. So like
some are a lot more specific than others too, because like the port one is you have to be at a port in order for this to activate. Whereas the military one is just, hey, you get to kill 2 people instead of, or you just get to kill 2 people, or the one that helps with enlisting barbarians is like, hey, if there's any barbarians left, you can turn them into legions,
which is super nice.
It's super great. But whereas the Vestalis is they just lose a legion.
And then the like prefect guy.
The builder.
He loses 1 legion and kills 1 barbarian. So his is like neutral.
And then I think there's
roughly neutral, but probably legions are more valuable.
And then a council is just you get to add a legion to your city. So it's like if you're there to kill people, and you just add more legions, you're like, all right, well, I mean, I guess that's okay.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Could be worse.
Yeah, but they all, I feel you definitely feel a bit of that specialization, I feel.
Yes. Yeah,
so
it works really
obviously everybody can go cure things, but some it's definitely a lot better for some versus others.
Right. It's more specific. Like Pandemic is best, I feel, when everybody has a strong role and like everybody knows what they're doing with their role, and everybody's fighting the disease or the water or the barbarians or whatever, but like you're working as a team, and some people and everybody's a little bit specialized, and this does a really good job of that.
Can you think of any other rules you've seen people struggle with as you've taught it over the last few weeks, Zach or Andrew?
Right? I don't think so.
No,
not really.
Yeah. It's all like, I mean, it follows enough of the core mechanics of Pandemic that it's pretty familiar.
4 actions, get good stuff, get bad stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, then let's move on over into some gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
So, gameplay for this one, I think that as the Survivor series goes, this one feels it feels more like Pandemic than say Rising Tide did. I still think Rising Tide is the one that feels the most different.
I would agree with that.
Okay, I can see that. I would have said that this was the most different, but they're close, certainly.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
I mean, they're definitely more out there than Iberia, which is just Pandemic plus.
Yeah. pandemic in history.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that the way the revolts and everything kind of go, like they seem more like the old outbreaks and everything than some
Sure.
of the flooding did from
Yeah.
from Rising Tide.
I agree with that.
I agree with what you mentioned, Andrew, during the, I don't remember if it was the components or the rules, but that some of the changes to things like the player cards having like the new dice and some of those things that really bring the roles, I feel like, a little bit more. You feel them even more. Like your role has a specialty that you really need to focus on.
Right. And that's partly player too. Like if the players are all like ignoring their role and just like, I want to go fight barbarians, then it doesn't work very well.
No, if they're the ones that are like about building up forts and building guys from forts, and they're just like, oh, I'm going to go out where I don't care about forts and do this instead.
Yeah.
And you're like,
I want to recruit legions and go fight.
Yeah. Or you're the port guy and you're just heading inland and just staying inland. Like, what are you doing?
You do realize this is a cooperative game, right?
Yeah.
You're working together.
Yeah.
I do really like the changes to the pathing. I like that.
Yes.
Especially for the theme, it makes sense again. Kind of like the way they did the water flowing in Rising Tide really fit that theme.
Mm-hmm.
The way the hordes march through the countryside, I think makes a lot of sense.
Now, did they actually march in the direct sort of direction? Because there are the what are the Vandals?
Yes, the Vandals.
Yeah.
The Vandals, like all the other ones, look sort of very straightforward on where they're heading towards Rome, whereas the Vandals go all the way down towards Spain and then loop around to Africa and then come up from the south.
So I was going to save my historical critiques for final thoughts, but that's, suffice it to say, it is close enough to true for a board game.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, Paul had found like at one of the games he Googled and it showed like the Vandals all the way down into North Africa.
The Vandals did go down into North Africa. I don't think they went from there to Rome.
Right.
But they went to Rome, straight to Rome. Down the Italian peninsula, I believe. But they also these tribes were, they were on the move with all of their people because they were being forced out of what's now Germany, most of them. And so they went a lot of different places.
Gotcha.
But yes, it is close enough to true for a board game. I'm not going to fault it.
Yeah. And especially, I feel like it's really there because they wanted the gameplay mechanic of having a path that's really far out there that's not an immediate threat like Blues, where it's like 2 or 3 away.
Right.
It takes like 10 to get to it, but it's really out of the way, and so you can easily not be paying attention to that, and all of a sudden it's
they're 3 away.
They're far away.
They're in Carthage,
and and then there's also a lot of cubes out there that aren't easy for you to get rid of without literally taking you away. Literally taking you away from where you should be focusing
on the German border.
Yes. Yeah. And that's one thing I like. I like that there are multiple routes. There are 2 routes for each tribe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of them goes to Rome, but the other one doesn't.
Right.
So you can, which we've done many times, be like, well, okay, it's going, like when we were playing with Leander, it was like, Leander, the thing that you want to fight is just one cube, and it is literally at a dead end, so it means nothing to us. But other times, it's, the dead end is far away, and there are 3 cubes there, so they're going to keep sacking the city, and it's hurting us. We need to fucking take care of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, especially because then when it sacks like normal outbreak, it shoots them off into all the surrounding cities.
Yeah,
too.
Right.
Yeah, and I think the Pandemic is best when it's exactly what you need to do, but Pandemic keeps being like, well, what about all this shit over here and over here? And you're like, God damn it, can't I just make some alliances?
Just want to do one thing.
Yeah.
I just want to do one thing.
I just cleaned this up.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the other things we didn't really talk about in rules, but it works just fine for gameplay, was recruitment and how that is also tied to the outbreak level. So as you draw more and more invasion cards, you're able to recruit fewer and fewer troops. So some of those early turns, it's like, well, I could go over here and try and fight, but I'm pretty sure we're coming up on another outbreak card, invasion card, revolt card, whatever. Revolt card.
Revolt.
Yeah. So maybe I should recruit, since this will be the last time we can recruit 3.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads to some interesting decisions about when to recruit and whether recruiting's actually worth it.
And with that, you're still drawing the third card or the fourth card as it, you have both. You're drawing more cards and you're
Yes.
recruiting fewer legions.
Yes. It starts to get much harder towards the end.
When you need those big groups
Yeah.
of legions, they're not there for you.
Yeah, right. And I think it's interesting that you can theoretically recruit, an infinite number. Like you only have so many cubes or so many legion meeples. Leeples. I don't know. But you can theoretically recruit all of them into a single city, but you can only take 3 of them with you.
Yes.
And when you travel.
So you have to make sure, and one, you have to be doing it in a fort, unless
Right.
you're the one character that can do it without that.
Yeah.
So that's where forts become important.
Right.
Is like before, hospitals were nice because you could move between different areas, and then you also had to be there to cure diseases. This one, the forts don't matter for that.
Right. There's no traveling between ports between.
There is one character
it's a specific power now,
right.
not a general ability.
and that's still you have to get rid of cards. So it's not you don't want to do it unless you have to, but you want to put the forts in the hot zones because that'll let you get more legions and bring them to go fight the barbarians that you need. And especially because they're there for fortification as well, because like Iberia, which had the water purification,
right.
which was sort of safeguard defenses against adding cubes.
And in Rising Tide, you had the dikes. That did the same thing.
Yeah, for this, it is the legions. If you have to add a cube that has a legion there, you instead remove the legion.
Right. And in Pandemic, at least in Legacy, they had the quarantine markers that did the same thing.
Yep.
So it's not in the base game of Pandemic, but it is in a lot of the Pandemic variations.
And one thing I do like about this one though is that because it's they're supposed to be like live people and stuff like that.
Right.
If you just have say 3 legions in one spot that's unprotected, which means that there isn't one of our little pawns.
Yeah.
And then if there isn't a fort there to help protect them, the first cube that would be added to that region, they call it ambushing because all 3 get removed.
Yep.
And then you would add like normal. Whereas if there were 3 legions there and they were protected, then it's a 1-to-1.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you can just spread those guys out, and then you're like, I could put 2 there, but because I'm not going to be there, there's no point because the first thing that's first one that gets added is going to wipe them out.
Yeah.
And they get hard enough to replace as it is.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially because the dice to simulate combat, it usually has losses on both sides.
Yeah.
Now you have like a 80. Well, depending on your power, obviously, you have 2 out of 3 chance on the dice of always getting rid of at least 1 cube.
Yeah.
But then you also have a
1/2 or
no. So it's technically 5 out of 6. There's only one spot that is where one of your legion dies, and that's it.
Oh, right.
So there's 2 spots that are just kill a cube.
Yep.
Then there's 2 spots that are, or no, there's 1 spot that's kill 1 cube and 1 legion.
Yep.
There's a spot that's kill 2 cubes and 1 legion.
Mm-hmm.
And
One
then
that's kill 1 legion, and then the eagle.
yes. So for most people, you have every time you roll a die, you have an 83% chance of killing a cube there.
Right.
But then you have like a 50% chance of losing your guy. So obviously the odds are in your favor, which is good. It's not like Arkham Horror or any of the other ones where the dice are specifically not in your favor.
Right.
It's usually like when
This isn't a horror game.
exactly, yeah. No, it would be pretty shitty if you're like,
Yeah.
I'm going to fight and there's a good chance I'm not going to kill anything. No, it's only if you have really bad luck will that actually happen.
Yeah.
One thing we were also doing wrong at the start, quote unquote, but it didn't matter that much, is that because you have to apply all the results that you can of the rolled dice, you can choose not to, because there are 3 dice, and so you can roll up to 3. So if you have
15 legions,
even
in your
if
city.
you can only do 3 at a time.
Right.
But if you roll 3, even if you're attacking 1 cube and all 3 of them are kill 2 cubes and lose 3 legions, you just kill 1 cube and then you lose 3 legions.
Yep.
So you can choose to take less, but then obviously you have a greater chance of not killing it.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it was that I was thinking of, is that there's a lot more of a strategic decision sometimes. Like, well, there's only 2 people there. and then I've got 3 legions. Well, I could roll all 3, but there's a chance I'd lose all 3 legions. I guess I'll roll 2 dice, and that should still usually kill both of the cubes. And worst case, I still have 1 legion left over.
Yeah.
Which kind of is a nice little interesting decision there, too.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, what we were getting wrong is that we thought however many legions you had, that's how many you roll.
Right.
Which there would have been a couple times when we didn't do that.
Right.
But it didn't hurt us like the invasion thing that we were doing wrong.
Absolutely.
Which I'm really glad that they did it that way, because when we played it the wrong way, we felt it was very easy.
Yeah.
Whereas this, it brings up, that random spot all the way across the map from where you are that is now a hot spot of barbarians.
Yep.
And like I said, my favorite thing about Pandemic is when it's pulling you away from what you actually need to do to stop these little fires from to go put them out.
What player counts have you guys played at?
2 and 4, I think, for me.
I have done.
Or no, I think I've done 2, 3, and 4.
I have done 2 through 5.
Okay, and I've done 4 and 5.
Yeah.
What did you guys think about it at lower player counts? How did it scale across the player counts?
To be fair, the only time I played it at 2 was the time we played it wrong. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure I can actually answer that.
Okay.
But I think that it worked better at 3 than at 4.
Yeah, I think like most pandemics, it's still when we played at 5. Usually what happens there is if you lose due to cards being drawn.
Right.
Like, because you have enough people to actually deal with the fires, but it just takes so long to do anything in that game that I think it still works best at 3 and then maybe 4 after that.
Do any of the other pandemics go up to 5?
The expansion with the first game goes up to 5. Legacy was just 4.
Right.
And Legacy 2 is just 4.
I think Rising Tide is just 4.
Okay.
So, and I'm assuming Iberia is,
Yeah,
but I don't actually know.
I can't remember. Yeah.
So that's different.
But I think with 5, it's just too much. Like, and
Right.
I felt the same thing with the expansion for Pandemic.
Yeah. I mean, given that Pandemic, you draw 2 cards at the end of every turn, and so everybody gets fewer turns.
Yes.
And more bad stuff happens between your 2 turns. I can't imagine, if a 5th person sat down to a game of Fall of Rome with me, I think I would probably stand up and go do something else, because I'm just 5 is too much, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
But I haven't played it, but that was my impression.
Iberia is also 1 to 5.
Oh, is it?
Rising Tide is 2 to 5.
Is it?
Yeah.
Huh. I've never played it at
Exactly.
5, but
yeah. I think the only reason we played at 5 is because we were doing what were we doing? What did we play? Estates, and we wanted to do 5 for that. And then they're like, "Yeah, but okay, we'll do that, but we also want to do Fall of Rome first." And I was like, "Oh, this is going to be at 5? I don't know about this." And we were only able to win on by the last turn. And, we had 2 actions to spare, and that was only because of the Vestalis being overpowered for that very specific circumstance of getting the exact cards we needed in order to exterminate the barbarians.
Yeah, because we allied in that game. We ended up allying with 4 of the 5 and wiping out the 5th.
Yeah.
Right, and that's I guess we haven't really talked about that. Is that
how
in
the
every
game
other
ends. How you win, rather.
In most versions of the game, you have to cure every disease, and eradication is a bonus.
Yes.
In this case, you either can ally or eradicate, but it's 5 diseases, so it's harder to do each of them.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've talked about the fact that the barbarians... There's a varied amount. Some barbarians, you only need 3 cards, some you need 5 cards, and they have more or fewer cubes.
Right.
So, yeah.
So what do you think that's due to, the power, the overall power of the tribes in relation to each other, or just a gameplay mechanic? Because I know you have the different tribes on there,
right? I don't know. It's
because the blue one's the Ostrogoths. Is that?
I don't remember.
I mean, is that how you say it?
Ostrogoths.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
They were the blue ones.
Eastern Goths.
Okay.
Is literally what that means.
Gotcha.
Don't ask me what Visigoths means. I don't know that one, but Ostrogoths.
The
is
ones
Eastern.
you can see, the visible ones.
Yes. That actually might be the case. They're the ones closer to the border, and they're the ones they could see. I could be pulling stuff out of my ass. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah. I think that it's. I mean, obviously they had different numbers of people
Yes.
invading, different tactics, a little bit, different times that they were invading, and if Rome was in the middle of a civil war at the time, they're not going to be very good at fighting off barbarians,
Right. Yeah.
or if they're, one of the problems is that they're only focusing on invasion from Germany when there were also tribes in Africa that they had to put up forts against and
Well, they did
fight off.
with the Vandals. They're coming up through Africa.
The Berber tribes.
Yes.
The Berber people are still around, but the Berber tribes were causing the Romans serious problems in North Africa too. And then there was the Persian Empire that was a whole big thing that it never sacked Rome, but it sure as hell beat the crap out of the Eastern Roman legions a lot. So
I don't think anything really ever came of the Persian Empire. So.
Jesus. But all right, well, back on track here a little bit. I think that about covers gameplay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Was there anything else you guys want to talk about how you? Well, I guess we can mention it in our final thoughts. So
Yeah.
We'll talk about some of that stuff in our final thoughts, which we'll get over to now. So I'll go ahead and start. I like Fall of Rome. It is not my favorite of the series. I still think for me that is easily Rising Tide. I'm not sure whether I'd put Fall of Rome above or below Iberia. They're really close. My gut feeling is that I'd like Iberia more, but it's been a while since I played, whereas Fall of Rome is more fresh in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And a more unique theme.
Yeah.
So.
Which I do really appreciate. I like a lot of what they did with the changes to the events of being able to do the better event and cause a decline.
Yeah.
Giving you more decisions. I know how you always like more decisions.
I like meaningful decisions,
Yes.
and I think they did a good job of making a lot of these decisions actually meaningful decisions. You get a really powerful ability, but it's going to cause you decline. Do you feel like you can get away with that?
You can do it in an emergency, but don't do it at the start, and don't do it when you're really tight on decline.
And there were a lot of times when it saved us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, absolutely.
The dice didn't end up hurting it as much as I thought. For one, you don't roll them very often, and they really, like you were talking about, Zach, they're dice that are mostly going to work in your favor. The times they screw you are pretty rare.
Mm-hmm.
And usually if you're rolling more than one, you're not going to get really screwed.
Yeah. Unless you're Jeff.
Unless you're Jeff. I mean, I
Jeff.
still have seen some bad rolls.
Yeah.
But I like that the addition of that wild card face on the die that is unique to each player. What that does,
that's a really good one.
that helps the players continue to feel more unique and really lends to this guy is good for going and fighting. So his eagle gives him a bonus, and whereas somebody else who doesn't want to fight theirs is actually more harmful. Kind of balances those dice. It's kind of that luck mitigation for the rolls is who should be the one rolling the dice? The guy who gets the bonus when it hits that face, not the person who gets a negative when it hits that face.
Absolutely.
But even with there are some that aren't as suited for combat, it's not it doesn't hurt. Obviously it hurts you more, but it's not. Then for that you only have a 67% chance of success versus the 83%.
Yeah.
So it's still in your favor, but obviously your time's better spent doing other things.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I like it overall. I really love the board layout. The art and design on that board is fantastic.
No, I think it's my favorite of the three I've seen so far.
That's interesting. I like it, but I would have put it third in the Survivor series for art. But it's fine. It's good.
I don't know what it is about the board, but yeah, because that was something that really stood out to me.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I came over and saw you guys playing it was, I don't know if it's something about the old style, kind of map look of it.
Sure.
It maybe could be a map that the Roman Legion has rolled out where they're doing it. I don't know, something about it, and the color scheme on it really popped for me. It was something I made note of. Otherwise, the components are the same as in everything, so nothing really stands out there. Overall, I think it's a good game. I think the Survivor Series continues to do a good job of taking Pandemic and then how can we tweak it to fit a different theme. While still keeping some of the core stuff that you equate Pandemic with. And I really like that. I think it's a good way to take something that's a classic game that I would increasingly have no interest in going back and revisiting.
Sure.
And still giving me a reason to check it out.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I like it. Zach, how about you?
I mean, honestly, mostly the same thing. My ranking of the survivors is still, I think I would put Iberia above this one, and then this one, and then Rising Tide. Like Adrian was saying, I like how it felt reminiscent of Pandemic, but with a lot of interesting, like the paths and things like that. Sure. Where like I felt like Rising Tide was a little bit too much of a departure for me. This one is it still felt like Pandemic, but it had a lot of interesting things going on. I like how the board. I think for me, one of the reasons I do like the board is I think the pathing adds this cool aspect of it.
Sure. Yeah.
That makes cities stand out more. Whereas I think like with Rising Tide, also like the cities here were still easier to figure out than the cities in Rising Tide.
There are no cities in Rising Tide.
Well,
I mean, the regions, yes.
The regions, yes.
And the fact that the regions, sometimes the rivers were the borders of the regions and sometimes they weren't. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I felt I was a little muddled, but I felt this one was clear. I liked I liked that they had combat with dice because it makes sense thematically versus curing a disease versus actually fighting something.
Yeah. You don't take a pickaxe or a sword to your bacteria?
I mean, I try, but I'm not precise enough for that.
Stand very still.
Yeah. I would say for replayability, though, this one is my least favorite because the only variant we found was the Roman, which we just play with now. Mm-hmm. But Iberia had like the historical diseases and hospitals. Rising Tide had the different wind conditions that you can choose,
including the population that I don't think you guys ever played with. Did you?
I think I did. I played once with it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't think I could revisit this one as much as those other two, but I would definitely. I think this is just another great entry in the Survivor series that works great at like showing new people people games to like, hey, Pandemic. Well, here's a version of Pandemic that does something else,
and it's slightly more complicated, but it's not it's not scarily more complicated.
Right. Yeah. And I still love that they're doing the Survivor series with going with designers of wherever whatever country that they're in and tuning it based on that. I think
whatever country the
World
Championship. Yeah. Do we know what the next year's is?
I do not know off the top of my head, but
doesn't matter. Find out by the end of your final thoughts.
All right,
yes,
fair enough.
That's what I thought. I thought it was another great entry.
Yeah,
they didn't feel derivative or anything like that. So
cool.
All right, Andrew, your final thoughts.
So I mean, all right. So I said I would cover my historical qualms in final thoughts. So let's get that out of the way. Like I said earlier, it's good enough for a board game. Mm-hmm. There are some weird things.
It's good enough for a board game that isn't specifically about the history.
Right. Yeah. It's not trying to recreate a specific battle or like it's not recreating a specific war. But
like if this was a coin game or Twilight Struggle or something, you might be like, oh, okay.
Sure. But like, there are some oddities.
Yes. No, weirdities. I like it.
But like, combining into one group the Angles, Saxons, and Franks. Like, the Angles and Saxons invaded England with another tribe called the Jutes that are not on there, and the Franks invaded Gaul, which is now France because the Franks invaded it.
So how convenient for them.
And that's why, if you're very blunt with somebody, you're being frank. But that's a little bit weird. Like, their path goes into England. Mm-hmm. The Franks never did,
Right.
And I think their path to Rome goes through France a little bit, which the Franks, I think, did. I don't know if the Franks ever actually sacked Rome. They probably did, but I don't actually remember. But the Angles and Saxons and the Jutes didn't sack Rome. So it's a weird grouping of tribes that, like, I understand why they did it,
Mhm.
but it's not historically accurate.
Right.
And all of these things were happening at like slightly different times.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Is that like the game makes it seem like everyone's like, you know what? Fuck Rome.
Yeah.
Let's jump them.
Right. And yeah, and there are times when like Rome would pay off a tribe to like ally with them. Like, okay, we'll ally with you, and you become the ones that like fight the tribes on the other side of the river. And they go, great, that's fantastic. And 2 years later, they come back and like, we need more money. And like Rome's like, we just gave you all the money we have. We can't do that. And like, okay, not allies anymore. So, obviously you can't really like that would totally screw up the game if you change the allying. Like,
that was one thing we didn't talk about too, is that you can actually turn barbarians into legions with.
We mentioned it a couple times here and there, but we never really went in
That's
depth on
one
it.
of the things. Once you have cured the disease by allying with this tribe, you can turn them into legions. Sometimes,
flip them to your side.
But the cubes still come out, and then you have to go and actively change them into legions. They don't just automatically become legions. I already mentioned I understand why they're focusing on Europe, in part because like that's where all the tribes that actually sacked the city of Rome came from. But Rome had problems on all of its borders that attacked everywhere. All of these tribes were going into Roman territory in the like 300s and 400s. One of the characters that we've talked a lot about, the Vestalis, the one that uses the events really well, the Vestal Virgin, is an extremely pagan character. And by the 300s and 400s, Rome was no longer pagan. There were pagan holdouts. There were a few senators here and there that were pagan, but like after the 330s, I think there was only one emperor, Justinian the Retrograde, who was pagan again, and then all of the rest of them are Christian. So having a Vestal Virgin be a significant character in a game that takes place that late in Roman history doesn't really make sense.
Right.
There are
a lot of
quibbles here and there,
which I think a lot of them just come down to gameplay decisions. Like they wanted a character that could do that,
right,
and that fit well.
You can't really have a Christian bishop,
right?
That same,
And then also, like you said, there's a lot of tribes that were doing it. I'm sure there are more than 5.
Yes,
but they wanted 5. They wanted 5, so they decided to all focus from the same direction, which works on the board.
Yes. Oh, it works really nicely on the board. But 5/7 because we're going to combine 3 into 1.
Yeah,
but
it's fine.
But yeah, so those are all my historical quibbles. Like I said, I'm the sort of person that has historical quibbles. Most people don't, and it's fine for a board game. You can't be that historically accurate and still actually make a good game.
Right.
That's fine. But yeah, I liked it. I think I agree with Adrian on the ranking here that falling water, rising tide, falling water is famous. Famous work.
That's the wrong way.
Yeah. Not Andrew Lloyd Webber, Frank Lloyd Wright. Other guy with Frank Lloyd Wright, Falling Water. Anyway, so I'm getting silly here. But yeah, Rising Tide as number 1. And then I would probably put Iberia over this, but it's very close, I think. And I would have to. It's been a while since I played Iberia as well. I
think it seems like for all of us, this and Iberia are really close, but it's just what we feel about Rising Tide and how that changes.
Yeah. And I think part of that is my other great obsession, as we've talked about, is the Netherlands. Yeah. So I really do like the Rising.
The Dutch.
Yeah, Rising Tide for that.
I'm also probably heavily biased towards Rising Tide since it was Jorun who worked on it.
Oh,
Swatter,
you actually,
so.
yeah.
And Iberia has trains, so really I feel like Fall of Rome, and Fall of Rome has dice, so I think Fall of Rome by default has to
obviously,
fall to the third.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it,
why didn't they put trains in Fall of Rome? I don't understand.
I know.
That would be the point at which I'd go, nope.
I mean, Italy's renowned for its on-time trains, right?
Yeah, that's the only thing that Mussolini
all the way
did.
Back from the 400s.
But no, it has some really inventive uses of mechanics. I really like the ability to superpower events to like by paying a decline for them, and I do like the uniqueness of each character on the dice. That like when they roll the eagle, a different thing happens for each character. I think those are some really inventive mechanics to add to Pandemic. So I would definitely gladly play this again. But if Rising Tide is there, I'd rather play that.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
A little spoiler.
Yeah.
Or a little thing you didn't know. So when I originally bought this, when we first played it, if you liked it, I was just going to give it to you as a Christmas present.
Oh.
And then we both played it, and we were like, something. And I was like, oh no.
Well, that makes me feel a little better that I didn't get you a Christmas gift. So yes. But that was very thoughtful of you. That was also at the same time that you bought the game that when you bought this, the game that Jeff was going to give you as a Christmas gift too?
Yes.
At the same time?
Yes.
That's hilarious.
Yep.
Right on. That brings all of our portion of the review to a close here. So it's time for a little bit of listener feedback. There were no emails, but there was a post over on the BGG page. Zach, do you have that ready to go?
Yes, I do. This is from what I think is first time on BGG. This is from Marlene. Haven't heard that name before on here. Oh, that's May. Oh, okay. There we go. Well, this is someone on the Slack.
Oh, it's May.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
great. She's always wonderful on Slack.
Yes.
One of my favorite personalities among your fans.
Yes.
Much better than that Paul guy.
That asshole.
Yeah. But we said fan. He's not.
Right, yeah.
This may be my favorite of the Survivor series. I like the way barbarians follow a path to Rome, and that you don't need to make alliances with all of the tribes to win. Having a power unique to your roll triggered by the special die face is nice too, except for when the roll where the unique effects sucks, which we were talking about before. I need to play it more before I can figure out where I rank it among the many, many versions of Pandemic.
Yeah. I will also say, since we're reading something from May right now, I'm sorry that my tones are not quite as dulcet as Wes's. She's a particular fan of Wes as a guest on
And
the
I think
show.
Paul too.
Paul, yeah.
Paul gets in there.
He's got a very deep voice.
Yeah, way to be the least dulcet tones of our guests.
Although you might be more dulcet than Jeff, so the episode as a whole might have upped the dulcet quotient.
I'll take it.
Yeah. But yes, thank you for the very quick response, because we're recording this a couple hours after the thing got posted, because we had to shift the time that we record.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as we realized that Jeff probably wasn't going to be in a condition to record, or I mean, personally, I think I'd love to have Jeff in here doped up on painkillers on mic.
Yes.
It would be glorious.
The bloody 45 minutes.
Yes, but I can understand why he did not feel up to that challenge.
Yep.
And so
we get it.
And unfortunately, you're busy tomorrow, so we bumped up our recording time just for you.
That was very sweet of you, and I'm glad I could be here at all.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and then there's also a lot of Twitter responses of just, that sucks, Jeff. Sorry.
Nothing related to Pandemic.
No.
But plenty related to Jeff getting better.
Jeff, don't get Coda. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, so that, with listener feedback wrapped up, brings the review to a close. If you would like to pick up Pandemic Fall of Rome, given our enjoyment of it and our review of it, you can do so online from a variety of places. Amazon's got it for just a little over 30, and then pretty much everywhere else is right around 40, plus or minus a couple bucks. So might be a little bit high for what I'd be willing to pay for it.
But all the Pandemics have been roughly that amount when they came. Yeah, at the very least, they don't say that limited edition bullshit that they did with Iberia. So.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
Although, have they done a second printing of Iberia?
I don't know, but I think
still available.
Yeah, it's still available. That's so.
So, Fall of Rome, also available and probably will be for a while if you would like to pick it up.
Yep.
And that wraps everything up. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to this week's episode. If you would like to get a hold of us, there are multiple different ways to do so. You can send us emails.
Emails at milehighgameguys.com.
Somebody had to do it.
Jeff's been replaced.
Yep.
Right there.
That was all you really need from Jeff right there.
Yeah.
So. Sorry, Jeff.
If I'd gotten around to having a soundboard for him, we wouldn't even need that much.
Exactly, yeah.
You can also find us over on Twitter, where I tweet under @MHGameGuys.
I am Zach_MHGG.
Do you have one you want to?
I don't. I don't tweet or Facebook or socially media anything.
Cool. Jeff is at Jeff_MHGG.
If you want to send him well wishes and kind thoughts,
I mean,
or just make fun of him. For
I
breaking
wouldn't be
his leg.
bad wishes would not be the worst. So.
You can also find us on Facebook.com/MileHighGameGuys and go to our website, MileHighGameGuys.com, for show notes and links to all of our things like our Slack channel, our Patreon, all of those other ways to support and interact with the show.
The Slack channel is the one place that I am available. So join the Slack channel and make fun of me as well.
Yeah. And all of the local gamers who come on the show are all pretty much in the Slack.
Yep.
And then a bunch of awesome, really chatty listeners from a variety of different gaming backgrounds.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
interesting to see who sides with who
Yeah.
from the show in there. Like,
Yeah.
We got some heavy gamers in there who are like, man,
I hate
dicey games are bullshit.
Yeah. Well, anytime we get to, I hate to agree with Zach, or they're ones that usually agree with me, and they're like, I hate to agree with Adrian, but
Yeah. So it's great times over in the Slack.
And Slackbot hates all of you.
yes.
Yes,
Although
it
people
does.
start killing more and more of him.
Yeah, he's been really inactive lately.
Yeah.
Anyway, that wraps it all up. That is everything. That's how you can get a hold of us. That's our review. It's all done. We're done. Thanks for coming and filling in for us on such short notice, Andrew. We really
Yes, thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Anytime.
And thank you to all of you listeners for listening in, and hopefully you enjoyed the episode. As always, I've been your host, Adrian.
I am still Zach.
And I'm Gaulish, Jeff. That was sorry. I should have. I'm Andrew, by the way.
I like it.
I should have come up with a better one.
Yeah,
It's fine. It's
it's
fine.
good.
It's the quality that I expect from Jeff. So.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. If you're going to be cutting all of this fuck ass shit, motherfucker.
Yes, I'm going to be cutting all of this.
Shit, I should have wrote cut then. No.
I hope you put that in as a bumper.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, it's up to him. I have very little say in the matter.
It's a good thing Jeff isn't one of your editors.
Right?
Yes. Well, I mean, he'd have a lot more time for it now. Yeah.
Jeff, did you cut out everything but the intro?
Yeah, right. in our hangout thing, I told Jeff, I was like, well, it's a bummer that we already used the Time Stories episode.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if we had known that you were going to break your leg, we would have saved it for a week.
Next time, give
give
a little
us a heads up.
courtesy.
Yeah.
Give a little heads up.
Punchboard Media,
where we all
Bring something
to the table
pull up a chair
at punchboardmedia.com.